Greetings everyone. Well, it's time for Young Adult April 2022, and this year we're going to be looking at the Hunger Games series. So, let's start things off by taking a look at the very first Hunger Games book. In the nation of Pan Am, established in the remains of North America after an unspecified apocalyptic event, the wealthy capital exploits the 12 surrounding districts for their natural resources and labor. District 12 is in the coal-rich region that was once Appalachia, while the capital is west of the Rocky Mountains. As punishment for a past failed rebellion against the capital, which resulted in the obliteration of District 13, one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 from each of the remaining 12 districts are selected by annual lottery to participate in the Hunger Games, a contest in which the tributes must fight to the death in an outdoor arena until only one remains. The story is narrated by 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen from District 12, who volunteers for the 74th Hunger Games in place of her 12-year-old sister Primrose. The male tribute is Peeta Mellark, a former schoolmate of Katniss who once gave her bread from his family's bakery when her family was starving. In the days leading up to the Games of the Capitol, they are advised by their drunken mentor, Hamish Abernathy, the sole living District 12 victor of the Hunger Games, chaperone Effie Trinket, and various stylists to enhance their public perception to get potential sponsors, who will send potentially life-saving gifts during the games. Katniss' stylist, Cinna, designed special costumes for Katniss and Peeta that set them apart from the tributes when introduced to the public. Due to Katniss' dress, which had the theme of fire, she became known as the Girl on Fire. During their evaluation by the game makers, Katniss unexpectedly gets the highest score among the others. Meanwhile, Rue, the petite 12-year-old girl tribute from District 11, follows Katniss and Peeta around during the training sessions. On the day before the games, in the televised interview by Caesar Flickerman, Peeta reveals his long unrequited love for Katniss. She is initially shocked by this and believes this is a ploy to gain sponsors, but later accepts this as sincere. Hamish then promotes their image as star-crossed lovers. The games begin, and nearly half the troops are killed in the bloodbath at the start, fighting over the weapons and supplies throughout the arena. Katniss disregards Hamish's early advice to flee immediately and nearly dies, but uses her well-practiced hunting and survival skills to hide in the woods. After a few days, an artificial fire drives Katniss toward the others. She's spotted and treated by the crew tributes, mainly from Districts 1, 2, and 4, and Peeta, who seems to have allied with them. Rue, hiding in a nearby tree, suddenly alerts Katniss to a tracker-jacker nest, which she sends it plummeting down, revealing the flying insects who are genetically modified to track whoever disturbs their nest and have venom that targets the section of their victims' minds that houses fear. Their venom kills one of the couriers and drives the others away, but Katniss is stung and begins hallucinating. Peeta returns, but instead of killing her, tells her to run away. Katniss later allies with Rue, but Rue is fatally wounded by the male tribute from District 1 while Katniss destroys the courier's supplies. Katniss kills Rue's killer with an arrow and accompanies Rue as she dies and spreads flowers over the body to show her defiance against the capital. In gratitude, Rue's district sends Katniss a loaf of bread. A rule change is announced, allowing the tributes from the same district to win as a pair. Katniss finds Peeta, later revealed that he allied with the couriers to protect Katniss, camouflaged to a riverbank having been injured by Cato, one of the courier tributes. She nurses Peeta back to health as best she can, but he is still gravely injured. Katniss pretends to be madly in love with Peeta in an attempt to gain gifts from sponsors. Soon the game makers send delivery of what each contestant needs most. Katniss risks her life to obtain medicine for Peeta. She is intercepted by courier tribute Clove, who gloats over Rue's death and tries to kill Katniss, but is killed by Thresh, the male District 11 tribute, who spares Katniss for Rue's sake. The medicine saves Peeta's life, and they both spend time hunting and collecting food. Katniss and Peeta become the last two survivors. The game makers revoke the rule change to force one to kill the other for a dramatic finale. In defiance, Katniss prepares to consume the poisonous nightlog berries of Peeta. Rousey intend to commit suicide so there will not be a victor for the games. The game makers declare Katniss and Peeta the victors. Although both of them receive a hero's welcome as a couple, Katniss, warned by Hamish that the capital may take action against her for her defiance. Along the way back to District 12, Peeta's heartbroken to learn that Katniss's actions were part of a calculated ploy to gain sympathy. Katniss, however, is unsure of her own feelings and her future. Aww. So now let's take a look at the themes of this book. In an interview with Collins, it was noted that the novel tackles issues like severe poverty, starvation, oppression, and the effects of war, among others. The novel deals with the struggle for self-preservation that the people of Panem face in their districts and the Hunger Games in which they must participate. The citizens' starvation and the need for resources, both in and outside of the arena, create an atmosphere of helplessness that the main characters try to overcome in their fight for survival. Katniss needs to hunt to provide for her family, resulting in the development of skills that are useful to her in the games, such as her proficiency with the bow and arrow. It represents her rejection of the capital's rules in the face of life-threatening situations. On the subject of the game's parallels with popular culture, Darren Franich of Entertainment Weekly writes that the book, quote, is an incisive satire of reality television shows, and that the character of Cinna almost seems like a contestant on a fascist version of Project Runway, using Katniss's outfits as a vehicle to express potentially dangerous ideas. The choices the characters make and the strategies they use are often morally complex. The tributes build a personality they want the audience to see throughout the games. Library Journal Voice of Youth Advocates names the major themes of the Hunger Games as government control, Big Brother, and personal independence. The trilogy's theme of power and downfall, similar to that of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, was pointed out by his publisher Scholastic. Laura Miller of The New Yorker finds the author's stated premise of the games, an exercise in propaganda and a humiliating as well as torturous punishment for a failed uprising against the Capitol many years earlier, to be unconvincing. Quote, you don't demoralize and dehumanize a subject people, but by training them into celebrities and coaching them on how to craft an appealing persona for a mass audience. But the story works much better if the theme is vicissitudes of high school and the adolescence of social experience. Miller writes, quote, the rules are arbitrary, unfathomable, and subject to sudden change. A brutal social hierarchy prevails, with the rich, the good-looking, the athletic lording their advantages over everyone else. To survive, you have to be totally fake. Adults also seem to understand how high the stakes are. Your whole life could be over, and then they just act like it's some phase. Everyone's always watching you, scrutinizing your clothes or your friends, and obsessing over whether you're having sex or taking drugs or getting good enough grades. But no one cares who you really are or how you really feel about anything. Donald Blake from the Washington Times and Pastor Andy Langford say the story has Christian themes, such as that of self-sacrifice, which is found in Katniss' substitution for a younger sister, analogous to the sacrifice of Jesus as a substitute for the atonement of sins. Brake, as well as another reviewer, Amy Simpson, both find that the story also revolves around the theme of hope, which is exemplified in the incredible goodness of Katniss' sister Primrose. Simpson also points to events similar to the Passion of the Christ. In the games, Christ figure Peeta Mellark is stabbed after warning Katniss to flee for her life, and is then buried in the ground and placed in a cave for 3 days before emerging with a new lease on life. Further, she finds that the Christian image of the bread of life is used throughout the Hunger Games. In the story, Peeta gives Katniss a loaf of bread, saving the girl and her family from starvation. And now finally, let's take a look at the publication history. After writing the novel, Collins signed a six-figure deal for 3 books with Scholastic. First published as a hardcover in the United States on September 14, 2008, The Hunger Games had a first printing of 50,000 copies, which was bumped up twice to 200,000 copies. By February 2010, the book had sold 800,000 copies. The rights to the novel have been sold in 38 territories worldwide. A few months later, in July, the book was released in paperback. The Hunger Games entered the New York Times bestseller list in November 2008, where it would feature for over 100 consecutive weeks. By the time the film adaptation of The Hunger Games was released in March 2012, the book had been on USA Today's bestseller list for 135 consecutive weeks and sold over 17.5 million copies. The novel is the first in the Hunger Games trilogy. It is followed by sequels Catching Fire and Mockingjay. In March 2012, during the time of the Hunger Games film's release, Scholastic reported 26 million Hunger Games trilogy books in print, including movie tie-in books. The Hunger Games and its sequels have sold exceptionally well in ebook format. Suzanne Collins is the first children's or young adult author to sell over 1 million Amazon Kindle ebooks, making her the sixth author to join the Kindle Milling Club. In March 2012, Amazon announced that Collins had become the best-selling Kindle ebook author of all time. An audiobook version of Hunger Games was released in December 2008, read by the actress Carolyn McCormick, and it has a total runtime of 11 hours and 14 minutes. The magazine audiophile said, quote, Carolyn McCormick gives a detailed and attentive narration. However, she relied too much on the strength of the prose without providing the drama young adult listeners often enjoy. School Library Journal also praised the audiobook, stating that, quote, McCormick ably voices the action-packed sequences that Katniss's every fear and strength shines through, along with her doomed growing attraction to one of her fellow tributes. The Tim O'Brien design cover features the golden mockingjay, a fictional bird in the Hunger Games born by crossbreeding female mockingbirds and genetically engineered male jabberjays, with an arrow engraved in a circle. This is a depiction of the pin worn by Katniss into the arena, given to her by the District 12 mayor's daughter, Madge Undersea. The image matches the description of the pin that is given in the novel, except for the arrow. It says if someone fashioned a small golden bird and then attached a ring around it. The bird is connected to the ring only by its wingtips. Interesting. So overall, as the first book in the Hunger Games series, this is actually pretty dang good, and I highly recommend reading the book first before you ever watch the movie. So, yeah. So overall, I give The Hunger Games, the book, 4 Mockingjays out of 5. Well, anyway, tune tomorrow as we take a look at the novel Catching Fire. So until then, see you all next time.